Welcome everybody to the first online Parapsychology Foundation Forum, Recent Advances in UK Parapsychology, and we are going to be on and running from now through quite a bit later in the afternoon or evening or early morning, depending on where you are. Okay, we're going to have 5 speakers today. Today we're going to take advantage, essentially, of a really wonderful trip that was taken by a group of faculty and students from the University of Northampton to come here and use the incomparable Parapsychology Foundation library. And as you can see, we have it right here. Let me get my pointer. I'm Nancy Zingrone. I'm a research fellow at the Parapsychology Foundation, and these are our speakers today. Professor Chris Rowe, Cal Cooper, David Saunders, Rachel Eviden, and Dr. Elizabeth Roxborough. We'll be starting with the actual presentations at 1:30, but we have an opening ceremony now. I do want to remind you of the schedule today and how it's going to work. We'll go on until we stop. We may give you a bigger break between our opening ceremonies and Chris Rowe. But from 1:30 to about 6:45, we will be pretty much chock-a-block with presentations. The first one at 1:30, of course, is Professor Chris Rowe, and he'll be talking about Psi as Unconscious, a review of some recent developments in parapsychology. We will be giving you biographies in the beginning of each of these talks. At 2:30 p.m. Eastern, we have David Saunders with To Sleep Perchance to Dream of the Dead. Do dreamed encounters with the dead provide any support for the survival hypothesis? 3:30 p.m. Eastern, we'll have Cal Cooper, The Role of Anomalous Experiences in Bereavement. 4:30 p.m. Eastern, Rachel Eviden, A Counseling Approach to Mediumship. We'll close up the forum with What is Clinical Parapsychology, an overview of anomalous experiences in mental health, and we will also be coming in again at the end. Lisette will be about to speak in a second. Lisette is the 3rd generation person in the family to run the Parapsychology Foundation, and Carlos is going to tell you a little bit about it, but we can tell you from experience that she's a wonderful person to work with, and she has done an amazing job. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to you, Lisette.
Hello, everybody. I'm very excited and proud to welcome you here today to the first of our online Parapsychology Foundation forums. We have a wonderful program set up for you today, and I'm hoping that this is going to be the first in many more efforts in this particular fashion that will join our published proceedings and our monographs and international face-to-face conferences. At this point in time, I think it would be very apropos, since my maternal grandmother, Eileen Garrett, was herself a famous medium and the founder of Parapsychology Foundation, if I let a medium herself speak to you. So if you will have patience with me, I'd like to read something that she wrote in an anthology, Does Man Survive Death? Published by Garrett Publications, and let someone who knows a little bit about mediumship speak to you today. So if you will. In the world of 50 years ago, aviation was in its infancy. Electricity and the telephone were still new wonders in the hands of the few. The structure of the atom was largely unexplored. The electron was mysterious. The quantum theory and the theory of relativity had barely been introduced in science, and to speak to our elders then of the conversion of energy into matter would have hopelessly confused them. The absolute answers of half a century ago seem to have dissolved, and in their place we find questions whose solutions, when they are achieved, seem then to lead to further questions. So it seems to me, has it been with psychic research, as with the physical branches of science. But one could wish that the same dedication and resource devoted to the physical might have been given to the exploration of those new and unsuspected horizons of the mind first discerned some 70 years ago, a mere breath in time. My own testimony, like that of others, to the reality of the spiritual world is based upon direct experience of facts and not upon theory. When I found myself subject to visions and thought transferences, without any known locomotion, possessed of mediumistic powers that needed to be examined, controlled, and analyzed over the initial years of training, I had to go within myself with the help of others to find and analyze these obscure human faculties and establish them in such a way that they could be used for experimental purposes. Does any residual doubt lurk in my mind as to the communications I received? This is a question often asked of me. There is no doubt as to the reality of the communications. Their cause and origin present the problem. Speaking as one who has had close contact with all mental phenomena for a great many years, and who regards the field of psychic research as a vaster territory than is even suspected, I feel the right to question the meaning of the messages, appearances of the alleged dead, and all the symbolism relating to this particular field. Although I have seen apparitions of thousands of the alleged dead and have received communications from them, I do not yet truly know whence those communications come. So although I can attest to the actuality of my experiences, I am unable to explain or interpret them. Or rather, there are so many possible explanations and interpretations that I am unable to state categorically this is how and why. So long as the process of calculation and measurement does not extend itself to cover this field of the mind, I must always retain a slight distrust of those mental phenomena and therefore of myself. I do not have the answers to these questions. Like the physicist, I can only ask more as I consider the experience, and so many others in the framework of the knowledge I have. We have as yet no real understanding of the laws of dynamics that govern our relation to the ether. Biology and psychology are not alien sciences, nor are their operations purely mechanized. They belong, however, to a physical universe, and it may well be that the enlarged field of physics of the future will give answers not currently extant. It may also be found that these entities that appear may be the unconscious product of our own magical makeup, as yet not clearly understood. My own testimony, as I have said, is based upon direct experience of fact and not upon theory. Test the facts whichever way one may, they can only be accounted for by the interaction of intelligences other than our own. There would appear to be intelligences of every grade, all of them possessing some subtle power as yet little understood by our limited comprehension, for such understanding needs an enhanced perception of reality and a clearer conception of the nature of the universal mind and its working, a problem towards which science is now focusing its attention. The tapping of the mind of a living person, I think, may be dismissed as the cause when spontaneous phenomena occur. Must one then conclude that somewhere there is a being or a reservoir of knowledge? This brings me to the concept of universal mind, which I realize is not acceptable to all. There are many ways of inquiring into and confirming the knowledge for those who do not wish to engage in the theory of communication with the dead. Not everyone can immediately achieve spiritual vision, but there are exercises and disciplines that properly practiced lead one to the possession of higher knowledge and seership. I know how difficult it is to describe states of ecstasy or of gray despair. There are no adequate words to reveal the quality and new dimension when one is bound by the language of the physical senses. These other experiences do not easily translate themselves into coldly intellectual phrases. I wish it were otherwise, for such demonstration in words would surely convey a richer image of the universe. I know that when I get messages or impressions concerning a dead person, the content of these communications bears no relationship to the bogey of the subconscious mind during the days of my experimental mediumship. But when I learned to escape the trappings of this mediumship, I found myself still possessed of telepathic powers, clairvoyance, and the ability to escape through the mechanics of trance mediumship. Still faced at times with the question of giving help to the bereaved, the surviving personality of their departed shows up without the mechanics offered by the seance room. I am confident that the material and its substance has the same relation to me as the messages relayed through a telephone operator. Then comes the question, where are the dead? In the present state of our knowledge, there exists no direct and scientific answer. I have endeavored for years to discover if these phenomena are in part an output of the medium's mind. But mental phenomena do not work at call for all who make demands, nor can we say what are the particular dynamics of personality that produce them or hold them back. I know that there are unexpected stores of energy related to the adrenal glands that play a part in physical mediumship. Along these lines, paranormal physical phenomena may one day be explained by medical knowledge. I know that there are unexpected stores of energy related to the adrenal glands that play a part in physical mediumship. Along these lines, paranormal physical phenomena may one day be explained by medical knowledge. We may then find that physical mediumship may have nothing to do with entities outside ourselves or with the problem of survival after death. When examined, these phenomena are often found to be of fraudulent origin. And yet, I feel sure that there are sources of unknown energies within the body, energies that can produce physical manifestations which, it may well be discovered, can even be transmitted to heal our ills, mental and physical. The basic spontaneous phenomena received through clairvoyance and trance would seem to be outside of the range of the normal reach of the senses, since it appears possible to receive knowledge by means of transference from the actual latent mental content of other human beings. We know that both physical and mental phenomena have been authentically demonstrated and do occur, but the nature of the mechanism that produces them still remains unsolved. To talk simply in terms of mind tapping or mind reading is futile. Notwithstanding all the theories and charges that are continually being made as to the methods of receiving such knowledge, mediumship remains a fundamental phenomenon to be seriously and frequently explored. Where, then, does the knowledge come from? There are some critics who condemn the idea that there may be discarnate entities existing somewhere who can communicate. To theorize about this introduces the possibility that it is true. Where, then, are the people that the clairvoyant sees, describes, and claims to speak with? Are they, as some people conclude, part of a cosmic memory? For myself, I know that they are out there, not far from beyond my sense of touch and feeling, because there are times when I feel that if I reach out a hand, I must surely contact the reality of their bodies, for they do not always appear as specters, but often as warm, living, breathing people. Where are they? It is easy enough to explain them away by saying that they are in another dimension. But I'm troubled that science has not yet discovered this dimension. It is the fault of science that it has not taken the trouble to explore the ether around us. I must ask myself again, are these entities really alive and carrying on the extended life they describe? If they are, I sometimes wonder why the process of death is necessary, for their activities appear to have changed very little, and to be but a heightened continuation of life as we know it here and now. Or, I ask myself, can it be that I am the mirror or a reflection of what they have left stamped upon the cosmic atmosphere? And this is one of the purposes of life, that we do leave behind an indelible and eternal record? If that is so, perhaps this is the process by which knowledge is revealed to us, by what has so often been described as an accidental measure. Is there an unsuspected key within the interior mind that unwittingly contacts the mind of one gone before, who has left his record for others to read? I might accept the idea that the earth itself is a mirror of that greater consciousness. For very often, I seem to feel that when I look into this more vivid existence, it has an exhilaration, an excitement, a sensation of color more intense than can be expressed in words. And then I am content to believe that the earth life of which I am a part can be compared to the reflection of the moon, which a child sees on looking into a pond at night. It is difficult for the child to know which is the reality, and I find myself very much in the same confusion as the child. But when I come upon these people, as I so often do, I do not find the great changes that one expected in those who have passed through the initiation of death. These experiences are not mine alone. They are the spontaneous experiences at times of every sensitive, and even of others who have never thought seriously about their intuitive faculties. Long as I see this whole tapestry of past events, and often of the future, living its life side by side with the events of the moment, then I am compelled to ask whether survival, as we comprehend it, is indeed the real answer, or is what is left that well of memory? It is my eternal question for the answer to this enigma that is driving me with passionate dedication to spend all the moments of my life making it possible for scientists and philosophers, theologians and psychologists to search for the answer which so far has eluded me. Well, it seems this has eluded lots of us, but we have on hand today people who are intimately involved in the pursuit of looking for the answers to the questions that we're all asking. So without further ado, let me turn you over to Dr. Carlos S. Alvarado, who will introduce our today's speaker. Enjoy.
Thank you. I hope you can hear me. That was a very nice introduction that basically presents a very clear outline of a lot of the problems of parapsychology, particularly those related to mediumship. Good, I'm glad to hear that the volume is all right. I basically wanted to say something about the foundation and then something about the presentation today from our visitors from Northampton, UK. I believe I have a slide that will present information about the Parapsychology Foundation, and I wanted to say a few things about that. This is the slide. This is just a summary of the things that the Parapsychology Foundation has done over the years, and actually what we are doing today is part of the program of the purpose of the foundation. So the foundation was founded in 1951, and since then it has been, as you can see in this slide, providing grants for researchers, students to conduct research in parapsychology, but also to conduct education and other aspects of the field, not only research. There were many conferences, and there still are, like this is an example of the first one online that the foundation has been sponsoring over the years. The foundation has also been publishing proceedings of conferences, books, and all kinds of magazines and journals over its history. There has also been many efforts for education for students, to provide educational material, to put people in contact, students and researchers, so that we can continue not only our work, but bring into parapsychology new people, which is so necessary in every research field. And there are many other contributions that the foundation has done. In fact, there are so many that I really cannot summarize them here. But I encourage you to check the website of the foundation, www.parapsychology.org. You will see there all kinds of information about the history, current, and past programs, publications, and many of the activities. But in essence, the whole point is to support the field of parapsychology to help students go forward. And in doing that, hoping that new discoveries will come from the research that is being supported, or at least a better understanding of this fascinating phenomenon of parapsychology. What we will be doing today, as I said, is really part of all these programs of education and dissemination of information that the foundation has been doing since the 1950s. Today, we're focusing on a group of researchers from the UK, the University of Northampton, and they will be presenting some fascinating research that I think is part of the cutting edge of what is happening in parapsychology in the UK. So we will be hearing about all kinds of topics. You already saw a slide, and Nancy mentioned the persons that are going to be presenting. But I just want basically to give you a general view that what we will be hearing today is a very general psychological approach from different angles of psychology to the problems of parapsychology. So we will be hearing about the unconscious nature of psyche. We will be hearing about dreams, particularly dreams related to the dead. We will be hearing about counseling approaches, some of them related to mediumship. And finally, a kind of a general overview of clinical aspects of psychic experiences. All of it is certainly part of psychology. All of it is using the tools of psychology, quantitative and qualitative, to study the human mind in terms of psychic functioning, but from very different angles. And again, that's another thing that the foundation we like to sponsor. We like to be very broad in the approaches that we support in the study of psychic experiences. And the Northampton group, I think, brings a very clear approach that is also interdisciplinary within psychology. It's within one field, but it comes from very different. So that's basically what I wanted to say. I hope that you will enjoy the presentations. And at this point, I will pass the system to Nancy. Going back to you, Nancy.
Thank you very much for your comments. I hope everybody can still hear me. We just have a few more things to say, and then we're going to give you a big break before we get started with the rest of the day. I just wanted to mention the 5 websites of the Parapsychology Foundation. The main website is parapsychology.org, which is total evidence of Lisette's intuitive qualities, because she got that domain name before anybody ever thought of getting that domain name back in the day. So that was really wonderful, and she's in the chat. You can say hello. The second one, or I should describe the Parapsychology Foundation main website, has all the basic information of the foundation, and we're in the process of updating it, and they're going to actually move to kind of a brand new redesign as well as the summer rolls out. So lots of new things there, and become mobile friendly and totally in the 21st century. pflyceum.org is the education site. It's the home of the Biographical Dictionary of Parapsychology. It's the home of all of the records from the Utrecht II conference, which I think Wim is still on here, was co-hosted by the Johan Borgs, I'm going to do this wrong, Borgsman, I think, Foundation in the Netherlands. Wim, if you could put that in the chat, that would be great, or Maurice. There's some wonderful photographs there, abstracts of the presentations, and information about that conference, as well as lots of other conferences. That's also the home of 50-plus bibliographies on basic information in the field, which are also in the process of being updated. Then the third one is psychicexplorers.org, and if you're on Facebook, you've probably seen the Facebook groups for the main foundation and for Psychic Explorers. That was also prescient. It was one of the first social media sites for people interested in parapsychology before there was Facebook. And that is another website that's in the process of being revamped and brought forward. SciMart.com is the commercial e-store of the Parapsychology Foundation where a lot of the materials are available. If you go there, you'll see that we're still selling videos, but this is also going to change as we move into the 21st century with more sound feed here. And then EHE.org, which is the Exceptional Human Experiences website that was put together by Rhea White initially, and then she left that to Lisette Coly and the Parapsychology Foundation, so that will also be getting a bit of a makeover. You'll be able to download all of these PowerPoints from the course schedule onto your own computer, and we've asked all of the presenters to provide you with further bibliography for further study of all of the topics that they're talking about, their own work and that of others. So you'll be able to download those PowerPoints and capture all of that bibliography and all of the other information that's available for your own use and for your future study. So the last thing I wanted to say, well, there's two things I wanted to say before I mention what we'll be doing in about 40 minutes. The course feed in the course is your friend. When you log into the Parapsychology Foundation forum on WizIQ, the very first thing you will see in that classroom, you find your course to the right of your own homepage. It'll take you to the homepage of the course. And that course feed is that central discussion area. All through today, we're going to be reminding you that in the future, the Foundation will be doing a number of online courses and conferences and forums and lectures and other things as the years go on. And we would love for you to give us your ideas about what you would most like to see from the Foundation, what you're interested in, what kinds of materials you'd like us to do, what kinds of things you would like to hear about, what kinds of speakers you would like us to bring into our orbit for your benefit. And you can use the course feed for that. You can also use the course feed to ask questions, make suggestions. If you have articles that you've written that are freely available on the internet and you'd like to share them with your colleagues, that's a great place to do it. To the left of the course feed in the navigation box, you'll find the course schedule button. That will give you the place where you can go and take a look at all the PowerPoints and eventually download the chat logs and everything else that we put there. There's also a contact provider button which you can click on to email Lisette Coly directly about anything that you would like to discuss. So the course feed in the forum is definitely your friend, and we hope we will use it not only to get to know each other, but also to ask questions and so on. Now, at this point, if anybody has questions for Lisette or for Carlos, we certainly have the time to answer them. You can put them in the chat, and we can let them put their mics back on, or they can type back to you, whichever way they're happy doing it. So does anybody have any questions at this point? I'll give you a couple of minutes to find the chat box. All the way down at the bottom on the right-hand side, and you just click in there and type away to your heart's content if you have a question. I have to say, I don't know if you've noticed this, but you should be seeing to the right of everybody's name a number, and that gives the time in their time zones. So for instance, here it's 12:43 p.m., and where Cassandra is, it's 9:45 a.m., I assume. And 8:45 a.m. for Margaret, and some folks are in the evenings, and some folks are practically overnight. Okay, no questions? All right, well, we will be back at 1:30. Well, I see a couple of people typing, so we'll come back to that. But while I'm waiting to see if someone has a question, the next presentation will be Dr. Chris Rowe at 1:30 p.m. Eastern. So that's about 45 minutes from now. And he will be talking about Psi as Unconscious, a review of some recent developments in parapsychology. And my advice is take a break, have lunch, have a cup of coffee, put your feet up, because from Dr. Rowe's talk to the end of the day, there probably won't be more than 10 minutes of downtime between each of the presentations. So let me wait while folks are writing. I see Bill writing and a number of people. Marcio is saying, I'm curious about the funding for the organizations. Who are the major sources? You guys want to turn your mics back on so that you can answer that question, and I'll shut my mic off.
Can you hear us now?
Can you hear us? Oh, you can hear us. Good, 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 good. Well, the story of the funding for Parapsychology Foundation, we were privately endowed by the Honorable Francis P. Bolton in 1951, who was independently wealthy and concurrently also served in the House of Representatives in Washington, representing the state of Ohio. Until then, we were always looking for support, and over the years, I think perhaps because we were a force to be reckoned with, people really didn't think that we needed the support. And as such, I've tried over the years to create a income stream in the sales and dissemination of our publications, but that never really happened. So part of the reason why the foundation has been as quiet as it has been in the past years is that there's not been much money around to continue our program. Thankfully, there was a complicated trust fund that came into play and has given us a little bit of life support. And so we are trying to actively become more helpful to our public, but also to raise people's consciousness about the work that we do attempt to carry on. So I'm always looking for donors. I smile charmingly to anybody I perceive who might be of that mindset. So I would ask you please to support the foundation and to make suggestions at any time.
Bill, if you can hear me, Lisette, Bill Everest was commenting on how contemporary Mrs. Garrett's comments were, considering the date when she wrote them, that she seemed to be so far ahead of her time conceptually in the way that she was writing and thinking. If you wanted to comment on that.
As a matter of fact, I'm struck with that even more so as I've been going through some personal archives, not at the foundation, but were left to the family, that my mother and I have been so busy trying to maintain the foundation, we never really had the time to dip into those personal writings. And now that I'm starting to do that, I'm really taken aback by how prescient she was and how she really, of course, wanted to support organized academic parapsychology, serving our colleagues in universities around the world, but also she was very interested in our second constituency, which is the public at large. And I realized through finding writings that I shared with you this morning that she was very much more interested in the commonality and the human spirit, much more spiritual than people gave her credit for. So I will be working to putting some of these statements together to illustrate another facet of a very interesting personality, and not at all because she's my grandmother. Okay? Yes, we're not a membership organization, and I don't have much of a staff, so it's by appointment only. But certainly, anybody, and if you get a hold of me, I will do my best to make the facility available. And of course, I'm always looking for, this is why I'm so happy that the Northampton students are here with me today. So I would ask any of our European friends, I know Wim was in the chat room, that if anybody would like to bring over a class or some graduate students, that would be wonderful en masse. But certainly on an individual basis, get a hold of me. I will open library.
Randy is asking any prospects for resuming the publication of the International Journal of Parapsychology.
I think about it, and now that I'm a recurring theme that I am a dinosaur, but I'm beginning to understand all the potential that the internet and all the digital publications publishing has. So I haven't given up the ghost, excuse the pun completely. I mean, that's a cherished hope. So as we try and see our way, climb out of the dark pit that we've been in for a while and come out into the light. That's definitely not necessarily a promise, but something that we're looking into. And I would very much hope that eventually we can return to a digitized version, perhaps, of the IJC.
If anybody has any more questions and comments, now's the time. Well, I don't see anybody typing at the moment, so whoops, Wim is typing. Let's hang and see what Wim has to say. Francesco also is asking, what are the future prospects of the foundation?
Depends on how much support I can gather, Francesco. I'm reducing costs tremendously by using the internet, but at the same time, I want to reassure you that from time to time, there's nothing like the personal face-to-face. So whereas I'm going to be moving forward with utilizing all this wonderful technology, I will not be running away from our roots completely. So there will be, hopefully, perhaps I can entice someone to co-sponsor events in much the same way co-sponsor. Whatever roads are open to me to continue our program and to advance study of psychedelics.
Okay, so I think we're done with our closing ceremonies, and it's almost 1 p.m. Eastern. So come back and join us at 1:30 p.m. And thank you so much for coming to the opening ceremony. And I think the rest of the afternoon is going to be very illuminating and quite a lot of fun. I've seen some of these presentations, and they look excellent. So thank you so much for coming. Bye, everybody.